Y'all remember when Gypsy said that she went completely unscathed by the chromosome deletion? Gypsy claims she had absolutely no symptoms of the chromosome deletion and that her mother used her diagnosis for the chromosome deletion as a blueprint for when she went to the doctor's office. However, Dee Dee didn't find out about the chromosome deletion until 2011 when Gypsy was already an adult. Dee Dee did know that she had some kind of chromosome disorder because Rod mentions it in the very first documentary, Mommy Dead and Dearest. And one thing that we should know about documentaries is that documentaries are not factual source of information. Documentaries do not have to be based in truth. They only have to get you to believe the story that they are selling. And the story that Mommy, Dead, and Dearest wanted you to purchase was that Gypsy was this horrendous victim of her mother's. Her mother had Munchausen syndrome by proxy, that Gypsy was so under the influence of her mother that she didn't even know what her age was, and that she thought that she had all these supposed illnesses and was totally healthy. However, Gypsy agreed and admitted that she had the chromosome disorder. I can't remember when, at the end of last year or the beginning of this year, but she finally admitted it. But again, she claims that she went completely unscathed, had absolutely no symptoms. However, when you look at Gypsy's medical records, every single thing that is listed under the chromosome disorder are things that she was being treated for. So I asked ChatGPT to help me with a reference on the symptoms and how it would affect her daily life. Let's start with the physical symptoms, because Gypsy likes to pretend like she has absolutely no symptoms of this deletion. Low muscle tone, heart defects, and odd gait. We have heard her say several times that her legs get weak. Even in a live, she was standing up for an hour and she was saying how her legs were hurting. We've also seen videos of Gypsy walking where she has an odd gait. Some of the cognitive symptoms are trouble focusing, forgetfulness, slow processing. Some social symptoms are poor eye contact, misreading social cues. Some emotional symptoms, mood swings, anxiety, meltdowns. We have seen all this play out on social media. She's trying to hide the fact that she is sick, and she's not doing a very good job at it. She has been sold this idea that if she can continue for the rest of her life to get people to believe that she was a victim of Munchausen syndrome by proxy, that she can turn into this great story of inspiration and admiration, but the story is a lie. And she's trying to hide it, and you can't really hide these things when you put all of your information on social media. Some psychiatric symptoms are depression and even in some schizophrenia. Behavioral symptoms, obsessive habits, sensory issues, rigid routines, executive function, disorganized, poor time management, gets overwhelmed easily, sleep difficulty, insomnia, and irregular sleep patterns. Now, because of her chromosome deletion, she would have needed early intervention and possible lifelong physical therapy. But her continued denial that she needs this help is starting to affect everyday life for her. So let's go down the list on how it would actually affect her in her daily life. Some cognitive difficulties would be difficulty even holding down a job, at school, driving, or budgeting her money. Now, I know a lot of us can get behind the difficulty budgeting our money, but She spends wildly, excessively on things that she doesn't need and seems to feel like there's just this endless supply of money. Some of the social difficulties would be awkward making friendships or dating, emotional struggles, challenges in relationships, or dealing with stress. Psychiatric, may need medication or therapy and possible hospitalizations. I do believe these were things that were discussed with Dee Dee. I do think that these were things that were discussed with Dee Dee whenever they finally came to the conclusion that it was the 1q21.1 chromosome deletion in 2011 when Gypsy was 19 years old at that time. Some of the behavioral difficulties would be that it can interfere with flexibility in work and in life transitions. And overall executive function would be difficulty managing a household, keeping appointments, or staying on top of tasks. And her sleep patterns would be fatigue, poor memory, and worsened mental health. Let's focus on those last two options right now, because we all saw that when Dee Dee's health took a drastic decline, that home that they were living in quickly turned into a pigsty. I mean, there was nothing organized. There was just shit everywhere. Gypsy wasn't doing anything to help out around the house. She's mentioned on multiple occasions that all she's ever had to do is exist. And the one time where she was put in charge of some responsibility by caring for her own mother, she couldn't even do that. She talks quite frequently about being tired, always needing to take naps. Yes, of course, whenever you are pregnant, you are a lot tired than you are just naturally. However, even before then, before she was pregnant, she was talking about, oh, I need a nap, I need a nap, I need a nap. We know that she has poor memory because, God, the girl tells so many lies. She forgets what she says one day to the next, and she's just like all over the place. And now that she has had her baby, we can see that her health is starting to worsen. I do think that there for a time, Gypsy's health had slightly improved a little bit, and that's probably the reason why Gypsy wanted a little bit more independence. She was feeling good. Her motor skills were developing a little bit better. She seemed confident in who she was. We see around the house that there are signs everywhere. Not only signs everywhere in the home, but also on the refrigerator. All of these things could be reminders for the Lifetime crew, could be reminders for Ken, but they also could be reminders for Gypsy herself to take care of the things that Gypsy needs to take care of, so her home doesn't begin to look like what it looked like whenever she was living with Dee Dee. However, throughout the Lifetime show, we have seen that Gypsy doesn't do many household chores. Every time they are showing Gypsy and Ken, we see Ken doing everything in the home and Gypsy just sitting there, existing. ChatGPT seems to think that Gypsy needs a therapist that is trained in neurodivergence or trauma-informed care. Within the microdeletion, the intellectual ability is often below average or mild IQ. The psychiatric risks of schizophrenia, autism, and ADHD are high. Microcephaly, developmental delay, low muscle tone, ear problems, eye problems, all of the things, including asthma, low weight. All of these things were things that Gypsy was suffering with and are still suffering with today. She may want to continue to ignore that she has issues. However, we all see it playing out on social media, and her family really does need to get her some help, because while she may think that she can live a quote unquote normal life, because in every single documentary you hear her say, I wanted a normal life, I wanted a normal life. I don't think that that's